Hey there, everyone. This is Chess Coach Aaron, and I'm here back to do some hard positions with you guys, some puzzles, if you will. And this series of videos, I'm usually doing 5 positions, so five more hard positions, and pretty much there's no theme to this video. Many of the videos I have a theme for the positions and the puzzles, perhaps. Sometimes, though, I just collect positions, come across games, interesting moments, puzzles that I see other people use, hard positions, and I keep them. And then when I'm ready, I'll do videos with them. So there is no rhyme or reason to these. They're just hard positions. Also, remember, puzzles are one of the best way to get better at chess. So pretty much, I have my little pause sign, and whenever we're ready, you're going to pause your screen and try your best. You're going to look for the move that you would play. I usually don't say if it's checkmate or win material or anything like that. So this is black to play. Find the move that you would play and go ahead and pause it. And usually I give you guys 3 or 4 seconds, and let's start talking. All right, so one of the first things you do, remember, when you look at a new position is look at the differences and the strengths and weaknesses. So this is black to move. And pretty much, you can tell right away, that white king is not in a good position. There's a lot of firepower for black, aiming all around that king. So it's pretty obvious that it's black to move. We want to go get that king. Before we make another move, though, we also want to look at our king. And our king is definitely not in a safe position. If it was white to move, I think knight to b5, that would be strong. That would be really bad for black. If we moved over to e6, I think we could just take care with check. Not so good. If we go to the dark square, e5, I think we could take over here on g7 and check. Also, the fact that we can even sacrifice a bishop or bring the bishop out with check and throw this rook over. This is actually for white. This is a lot of firepower also. So pretty much black to move has to do it by force. It has to do it by checks. I don't see really any forcing moves other than checks, which will kind of control the action, because that black king is absolutely not safe either. All right, so now that we know we have to check the white king, there aren't a lot of checks here. We have 1, 2 with the queen. We have 1 with the rook. And I don't see a lot of other checks. Maybe the bishop over here on e2 rather, e2. All right, so we do have 1, 2, 3, 4 different checks. So that's actually enough to really say to ourselves, we have some choices here. And the further I look at it, we can start to eliminate them, such as if we just were going to move our rook over here, and let's go to the analysis board now. If we were going to play rook to d1 check, now can that king actually move? No, it can't, but not a good check. Just giving up the rook. I don't see any follow-ups, and again, this king is not safe on d6 right now. So that doesn't seem to work. Let's see, bishop over to I keep saying d2, e2 check. Again, not a lot of moves for the king. They could capture it, and I do suppose that taking with the knight, if they did take with the knight, means that rook would be checkmate on d1, so they definitely can't take with the knight, but what if they take with the king? So we gave away the bishop. Are there any follow-up checks which seem promising, worth giving up this bishop? Don't see any again. There's too many pieces covering these squares. All right. But this, you would think there's got to be something here because the coordination of the black pieces looks strong. The one thing is this dark squared bishop on c5 is blocked by the rook. But we still are covering all these squares. Well, now we got to look at the queen checks. So queen to d1. Don't see a lot of follow-ups, right? We have to capture. King can't do anything else, and the king is the only thing that can capture. But I don't see any follow-up checks which look really promising also. Oh, it was close. Rook to d1, and this bishop covers f2. But again, the knight is covering d1, so it's not checkmate. If that knight was in here, then it would be checkmate. All right, so we are close. So that only leaves one more check. Boom. Can we really give away the queen? after all, this queen is covering G3, F2, and E1, all these squares. Is that the case after we play queen F2 check and the king captures? Well, we actually have a pawn still covering this. The pawn is covering G3. This bishop can cover F2, but how do we also cover D1? Ah, this is now a discovered check, one of the most powerful moves in chess. And a big difference here. We are checking not with the rook when we played rook to D1, let's say, or bishop check. We're checking with this dark squared bishop. And we are covering all the escape squares. Excellent. So there's only one move block. Bishop takes. And checkmate. Not too bad. All right, I hope you guys got that. Let's get to position number 2. All right, we got position number 2 up, and not quite as complicated as the last one, just fewer pieces. But again, we can still see it's white to move, and this bishop covers a lot of territory near their king. This rook covers a lot of territory near their king. Our queen also controls that D line and perhaps some territory towards the king. So this king, though, does have some moves here, right? If it was, for some reason, black to move and they wanted to move the king, it could move. And on top of that, if it was black to move, our queen is hanging. Now, does white want to just capture their queen and do a trade? Their queen is protected, right? I don't think this is going to help. Because, again, when we look at the differences in positions, all the materials equal except black has one extra pawn, and it's a past protected pawn. It could definitely run down to G1 and get promoted fairly quickly. So if queens came off and there's no pressure on the black king, this would be an endgame. Bishop, bishop, rook, rook, extra pawn. Black might even have a slight advantage here, if not a winning advantage. So we can't trade queens. And our queen is hanging. This leads me to believe that our queen has to be what moves, unless we have a check. All right, let's go to the analysis board. And if we can find a check that seems to be promising, we wouldn't worry about our queen hanging for the moment. So does rook e8 check seem promising? Well, not really. Are there any other checks? Well, the only other checks I see are queen to d6 and queen to d8. d6 cannot be good because their pawn covers it, of course. All right, so queen d8. Now they can't block, and their king, where can it go? Can't stay on the 8th rank, right? Our queen says checkers. The only move available would be to g7. All right, but we're trying to do this without moving our pieces. So queen d8 check, right? And they have to go to g7. But now, without moving any pieces, what would be the next move for white? Because queen d8 seems pretty straightforward. It's the only good check there is, and we save our queen. And we put their king, rather, in a kind of a corner. G7 is towards the corner of the board, but do we have any follow-ups? And there aren't a lot of pieces here. So that is the tough one. All right, let's set up the position, and let's see what you guys would find, because this really seems like the hardest part of the whole puzzle. 4, 3, 2, find a move, any move, try your best, and 1. All right. Well, again, we do control a lot of squares. We can't move this light squared bishop. It's pinned, but it does cover squares around the king. Now that the queen is down on d8, by the way, notice if we go to the back, the start of the position rather, we look at f6 and it is not covered by white. But as soon as we check and their king goes to g7, but our queen is now covering f6. So right now, h7, g6, f6, all these are covered along with the 8th rank. What's the one piece not doing anything? The one piece that's not doing anything to help trap that king is the rook. So it's got to be the rook, I'm pretty sure, that does the next move. Now, we could play rook here, and that's pretty strong with this battery, but that's not a forcing move. And they would have check on f6 and trading queens. Again, something white doesn't want to do. We have to do it by force. So rook here is not a check. It doesn't do it by force. What about going this way? We could take the pawn with check, but how does that help? And isn't our pawn covering g6? Oh, but wait a minute. Our bishop already covered g6. So if we take on g5 check, they have to capture back. Maybe go for a check. I feel like we're getting really close. Capture, capture, check. Notice we don't have a lot of firepower here. We just gave up the rook, but we still have that pawn and the bishop and queen. Check. Can't move, can't move. Can't move, can't move, can't move, can't move. Well, this is the only move. What's the next winning move? Boop. And with the help of this pinned bishop, it still covers squares. This king is not allowed to move into the diagonal that the bishop's covering. Well, there's only one move to save the king. And checkmate. Very good. I hope you guys found it. Let's go to position number 3. All right. So this is a tough one. White to move. Find the best move. Remember, always look at the differences, but we're going to do it right away. Find a move that you like. All right, let's talk. And right away I notice that their king, and this is one of the first things I always look at, has no safe moves, right? The D line covered. C5 covered. B4 covered. B3 and C3 covered. So basically, every square on that king is covered. That king cannot move. But how does white actually apply that little check? King can't move anywhere. Can we get one little check in and just checkmate? Well, this is a tough one, because if we check with our rook going to c6, well, now their king has a couple places it can run. And we kind of have to be careful. Our rook is hanging. Bishop capturing over on e5. Capturing also attacks this rook, right? Because it's a check. So it's not quite so straightforward. And we do have this monster pawn near the back rank. Is it something about getting a pawn to the end? But again, what move? There's a lot of threats that black actually has here. And this is not easy. And again, if you try to move your rook to the side, let's say check, and let's just say the king goes here attacking the rook. Now you're attacking 2 rooks. You're threatening this pawn. This really strong pawn, and it was strong at the start of this position, is no longer protected also. So I don't think that's the right move. Let's go to the analysis board. Boom. And one of the tricks is, again, their king can't move. How can we apply a check and finish this game? And this bishop is very annoying. This rook attacking is very annoying. But let's try rook capture, because this is a check. And that saves our rook. But now our knight's attacked. And if our knight moves, bishop takes e5 is just deadly. And if our knight also moves, it loses support of the b pawn. Whew, how can we get checked? But wait a minute, can their king move after this first exchange, rook for rook on e4? Well, right now it can't move. So here's the trick. We can't move the knight. We can't, right? Because bishop takes is just too strong. But how do we make it so bishop takes pawn won't bother us? We don't move the knight. And what about this b pawn? Because if they capture the knight or remove the knight, the b pawn is now available for their king. So that just means c3, protect that pawn. Even if they take the knight, the pawn is still protected. The king can't go. If they take the e pawn, it's not a check. But is there a threat of a checkmate? Ah, there is. Rook going to d4 is checkmate. This king still has no moves. So really the c3 was the secret here. And if they take the knight, checkmate. If they take the pawn, take that, and later checkmate. If they take the e pawn, well, our knight protects, and then later checkmate. There's no way for them to avoid it. I hope you saw that move. And remember, when their king has no moves, look how to finish the job. All right, let's go to position number 4. You guys are doing great. All right, position number 4. And this looks like right away we can look and say it's very windy around that black king. And we have some pieces all aiming there, right? We got our bishop, we got a rook, we got a queen, and we even have a knight. So we do have a lot of activity towards their windiness around their king. But if it was black to move, because we always look at the position, and we always try to compare the armies, weak squares, weak pieces, strong squares, strong pieces, difference in material. And whoa, if we look closely, there's a lot of difference here. Black looks like they're up a rook and a minor piece. So they're actually up quite a ton of material. And on top of it, does black have any threats? Well, if it was black's turn, they would just capture the knight in f3. And that would be a fork, and they would just win their queen. So pretty much, black's way ahead of material, and black has a lot of threats. It really doesn't help if we even think about winning, like, let's say, one piece. We're already down 2 pieces, a rook and a minor piece. we have to think about checkmates. The one huge strength, I mean, we have a few strengths here for white, but the one huge big thing here is we have something planted on f6. And whenever someone creates this type of structure, the same for white, if black has this position and we have something planted on f6, or white has this position and black has something planted on f6, this can be really strong. And here, this bishop does a lot of good work. But how can we utilize it? So, does bishop take actually help us? Well, king can take, and actually, sorry, let's go to the analysis board. And let's get back to this. Whoops. Whoop. That didn't work out. Let's back it up. Let's back it up. Let's set it up. And notice, when we go to the analysis board, got to have the position set up. Nice. All right, let's do it again. All right, so now, if bishop takes, king takes, and does queen check actually win? Well, if they go to g7, we have a checkmate. And we could have gone to h8 for checkmate also. But do they actually have to go to g8? What if they go to f6? Do we actually have a checkmate now? Well, we could check over here, but now the king can run back. And, is this checkmate? No, because they can go forward, right? So that's not checkmate. And what else would happen here? Well, it looks like black would just beat off the attack finally once they get an f6. It looks like they would be safe here. Yeah, I don't see anything else for white to do in that scenario. So let's back it up, let's back it up, let's back it up, let's back it up. All right, so does bishop takes work? I don't think that works. It looks good, but doesn't work. And plus, you have to keep doing things with check. So bishop takes really actually just loses to this. Just to show you real quick so we don't forget that they are threatening to take that knight with check. All right, so we have to do things by force, perhaps, right? And usually we need to do things when we say by force, usually by checks, or if you can see a super big threat. All right, this knight is not protected. Do we need to protect it? Well, any move like king up here seems like it's just going to drop a bishop, and the attack just about goes away. As long as their bishop covers h8, it's very tough to get in here and do a checkmate. We might get one on h7, but it's very tough. The surprising correct answer actually is you don't trade over here. You don't run away with your rook. You don't protect the knight. Instead, you play queen h6. And this is a tough one to find if you're not really looking for it. The fact that they can take the knight with check. Whoa. But what is white threatening? Well, right now, we're actually threatening queen takes g7, checkmate. If they take the rook, checkmate. If they do check and we go to the corner, are there any more checks? Well, I don't see one. And do they have any way of protecting the bishop after they take? Well, how do they protect it? They can't. All right, so the bishop would have to capture, and we're threatening both. Notice, checkmate at h7, and even now, this is a threat, queen h8 check, bishop take, and rook take will be checkmate. This bishop on f6 is a monster. It just kind of holds the whole position. So, what else is there to do? If they capture, we do checkmate, checkmate. And let's say they do something else like run away with the rook. Why not? Now, we could just take on g7 checkmate, or we could even try to have a little more fun if you want, but it is a forced checkmate. And checkmate. Whoops. I got to make the sound effects. Notice how strong this bishop on f6 ends up being. It actually wins the whole game. And yes, queen h6 is not easy to see here. You would find it if you're looking for it. But these type of patterns, when there's windiness all around the black king, or any king, when, there's weaknesses all around it, same with white over here, actually. These are the type of things you need to keep in mind and keep looking for. And this bishop's so strong. All right, enough talking about this position. Let's get to the last position. Position number 5. All right, this one, I think is fairly straightforward also. That black king is kind of penned in. And this bishop on b2 is a monster. It just controls this diagonal right into the windiness, because this is very windy for black, right? Nothing is fighting back on the dark squares, just about. Their batteries in the wrong diagonal, and this rook does cover g7. So it is a little tricky. White wants to finish this game quickly. For example, black is up a full extra rook, and you don't see this often. I kind of have to mention it when we're evaluating new positions to see 6 isolated pawns all on the same color square. Whew, you don't see that too often. And all these positions I'm showing you are actually from real games. So these 6 pawns for black, all isolated, all on light squares, that's kind of rare. All right. But how do we go and get that king? That is the question. All right. Find the move you like. All right, let's talk. I love that waiting music. I can't help it. All right, so what did you guys choose as your first move here? And by the way, this pawn is very important. The fact, and it's hard to tell, but the fact that it actually covers f7 is going to be very helpful. Kind of the tricks in this position, if you want to call them tricks, are the fact that this pawn, again, is isolated on h7, and what's the only protector? It's the king. So it's actually a weak pawn, and we already have our queen checkmating piece attacking it, but can we get a helper? So what about our knight helping as the helper, attacking h7 so we can get checkmate? Well, they actually have a battery aiming for it and a rook. So how does this actually help us? Well, now we look further at the rest of our position, such as if knight goes to g5, can they take with the bishop? And the answer is no, because the rook on g4 is the only thing covering g7. So let's go to the analysis board. And if we play knight g5 and they captured, our rook, or their rook on g4, no longer can reach g7, so checkmate. Notice that would be kind of like a deflection. A deflection meaning you make your opponent move a piece to where it doesn't want to move. And right now, the knight on g5 is blocking the rook's protection of g7, and the deflection would be if they capture with their bishop, still blocks their rook from reaching g7. So they would actually have to take with the rook. But let's back it up. How does that help us? Knight g5, and then rook takes g5, right? That still covers g7. We don't have two things aiming for h7, but now our rook is positioned to also help with aiming at h7. Right now, the knight can go and help for h7, but then it gets captured, and now our rook can go to h3 and helps aiming at h7. Notice the knight's actually in the way of the rook. So knight g5, are they going to play it correctly? Let's say they do. And now rook h3, and again, we are threatening h7, checkmate. How does black stop this now? And remember, we still have this bishop covering over here with our queen. So our queen is aiming at h7, but it has some pressure on g7. They have to be very careful. But can they protect h7? Well, the rook can't go back because, again, checkmate. Rook goes over to h5. Well, that's only just delaying it for a moment. So the only real move is to give the king another escape square. And that is to let the king go to f8, right? So when we take on h7, the king can run away. But now here's my point of this f-pawn being so important in this position. It actually helps finish the game, and boom, checkmate. All right, I hope these 5 positions kind of challenged you. I hope you guys did pretty good. Remember, it's okay if you don't get them right or wrong or the best moves. Just keep on working, keep trying. You just want to get better at chess. All right, real quick joke, and then we're done. And remember, you always get bonus points for chess jokes. Hopefully they're funny, too. All right, so this is a chess one. What does the salad say at the end of every chess game? One more time. What does the salad say at the end of every chess game? And by the way, salads are famous for being great at chess. All right, this particular salad says, let us play a new game. Hello, is this thing on? Hello? Let us play a new game. At the end of every game, the salad says, let us play a new game. All right. This is Chess Coach Aaron out. Have a great week. Peace.